Good day, Rotarians, and welcome to the January membership Master Vault session. I'm Adi Onayemi, and it's my pleasure to serve as your host today. Thank you for joining us for a conversation that is practical, relevant, and focused on strengthening our clubs. Before we jump in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. Please participate and drop your questions into the Q&A as we go. This is meant to be interactive. This session is being recorded, and you're welcome to share it with your clubs. And as always, we welcome your feedback on how we can continue to strengthen this series each month. Our focus today is Learning Center Deep Dive. The Rotary Learning Center is one of Rotary's most powerful and often underutilized resources. When used intentionally, it becomes more than a set of courses. It becomes a leadership pipeline, a membership engagement tool, and a shared foundation for club excellence. Today, we'll explore how clubs and districts can move from simply knowing about the Learning Center to embedding it into how we develop people through onboarding, leadership development, succession planning, board retreats, and strategic planning, and how tracking progress and peer learning turn learning into action. Before we begin our panel discussion, I'd like to take a quick audience poll to ground today's conversation. Please note that all poll responses are anonymous. There are no right or wrong answers. We're simply taking the pulse of the room. So, when did you last use the Learning Center? Never? Within the last 3 months? More than 3 months ago? More than 1 year ago? So we'd like your feedback, and that would lay the foundation, the groundwork for tonight's discussion. We want to know our audience. All right. So we see very good. 65% within the last 3. We got a good audience. Thank you. All right. The rest of you will also catch up. So thank you for participating. We'll come back to these results later in the session. To guide this conversation, I'm joined by an outstanding group of Rotary leaders. Serving as our mediator today is Demetrius Harrell. Our first panelist is Kimberly Kwame from Rotary International staff. And later, we'll also be joined by Rotary International trustee, Maddie Hellman. With that, I'm pleased to turn the session over to our mediator, Demetrius Harrell, to begin today's Learning Center deep dive with our first panelist, Kimberly Kwame.
Thank you, Adi. And one of my distinguished classmates of 22-23. What a year to imagine. We are now in 2026, and it is a wonderful year and a wonderful way to start out our Membership Master Vault series. We want to bring to the stage none other than Kimberly Kim Kwame, who is going to take us through a journey to navigating our Learning Center. It is one of the most valuable attributes, resources, and tools for all of us to use. And I cannot wait to hear what all I will achieve today in learning from Rotary's best. We want to always celebrate the staff, members of Rotary International, and the tremendous work that they do every single day. Kim, I turn it over to you. Thank you for being our first panelist. And you may be still muted.
How's that?
That's great.
What? Does that work?
I can hear you well now.
Okay, good. So my name is Kimberly Kwame, and I've been working at Rotary here for 19 years now. And my role is to ensure that club and district leaders are prepared for their role on 1 July. And one of the ways we do that is through our Learning Center and the online courses. And so I'm going to take you through a couple of quick slides to give you some information on the Learning Center. And then as we go, if you have specific questions about how to find something or where is certain information in the Learning Center, please feel free to add it to the Q&A. And when we get to the live demo, I'll be able to take some of those questions and show you around and get your questions answered. So let's get started with some really great news that we have around the Learning Center, and that is that we launched a new mobile app in May of this year. And if any of you have used the previous app, you had to go into your browser, search for the Learning Center, and then it would ask you to go to an app or click a button to get into the app, but never click on the app. And so this works more like an actual app where you're going to download the Rotary Learning Center app, and then you're just going to click on the app whenever you want to go to the Learning Center. It's going to prompt you for a login, and that's just going to be your My Rotary login. So you enter your username and password, and then you'll be able to get in and see the courses that you want. And so I'm encouraging you, if any of you are not on your phones to listen to this webinar, to take a moment and get on your mobile device if you haven't already and download that mobile app and try it out and let us know how it's working. One of the things that to be aware of if you're promoting this to other members is if somebody has not been to the Learning Center before, they will not be able to get into the mobile app until they go on a desktop or laptop computer, enter the Learning Center for the first time, accept that privacy policy, and then that account is created for them. So now they can go and download the app and it will work for them. So that's just something to note as you promote this to others. Yes. All right. I also wanted to share some data from zones 25B and 29. This is all-time data, right? The Learning Center launched in August of 2018. So you can see that in Zone 25B, we have over 13,000 members, or 13,000 completed courses from all the members in that zone. And in Zone 29, we have 17,000 completions from all the members. In terms of the participants in dark blue, we have 2,600 participants from Zone 25B, and in Zone 29, we have 4,200 members who have been to the Learning Center, right? So those are the current Rotarians and Rotaractors who have visited the Learning Center. I also wanted to share that our club usage continues to increase. And if you see, I did a quick search for the members in your region and how many different clubs have been to Learning Center in this Rotary year. And you can see that at least one person from 87% of the clubs in Zone 25B and 79% of the clubs in Zone 29 have been to the Learning Center at least once. So there's at least one person in all of those clubs going to the Learning Center. And globally, we're just a little bit over 52% at this time. So we hope to see some bigger numbers there. But that's really good data for us. And with that, I want to ask a question. We're going to pull up another poll here. based on this, what do you think the main obstacle is preventing your club from using the Learning Center more? So this is what I want to understand a little bit better, so we can work to fix that. Is it lack of awareness? Do people have too many time constraints? Is there no one coordinating it? And is the content not tailored enough to your needs? Yeah, so a couple more seconds and we will close and share the poll. But yeah, it looks like a lot of you are responding here. Lack of awareness. Yeah, okay, so I think we can share the poll. And lack of awareness at 49%. So we definitely need to get the word out a little bit more. That's clear. And then a little bit on no one's coordinating. So let's see. Okay. All right. So we'll close that. Before I get into the demo, there's a few resources that I want everyone to be aware of so that you can stay connected to us. The Learning in Action newsletter. If you are not subscribed, I highly recommend going into my Rotary and subscribing to this newsletter. It is a monthly newsletter that we send out. We focus on learning. We focus on any webinars that are coming up, any updates on courses, new courses, revised courses, tips for using the Learning Center. So definitely check out this newsletter if you are not subscribed already. And then if you use Facebook or Instagram, we have a Discover Rotary page. This was formerly the Rotary Learning Center page, but there's only so many courses I can promote in the Learning Center over and over again, and it gets a little boring. And the rest of us have so many resources that we're creating to share with you. And so I highly recommend checking out and liking and following this Facebook or Instagram page, because we're constantly sharing videos and deadlines for awards, reminders for entering data into my Rotary, and information on courses. So for sure, these are two ways that you can stay connected to us and get the most up-to-date information as possible. But if you might need additional support, for example, if you can contact our Rotary Support Center. Data services can help if you are unable to get into my Rotary, right? If you forget your password and need to reset it, you can go to data@rotary.org. We are working on a plan to update our login process. So hopefully one day you will not have to email a human to get your password fixed. So stay tuned for that. And then if you have any questions specifically about the content or how the Learning Center works, you can reach out to us at learn@rotary.org. I have a team here that is constantly checking that email and responding. So if you need extra help, that's where you can go. And then just a quick call to action before we move to demo. And again, if there's some specific questions about the Learning Center that you have, let me know in the Q&A. But my call to action for you is to get 2627 club and district officers reported. So reminding your clubs to enter that data, because we get that data, and when a new officer is entered into our system, clubs and assistant governors, then we are able to send out a weekly email that goes out every Monday to anyone who's been newly reported in an elect role. And that email will just give them information on the courses that are available to them and remind them to complete them. Promote the Learning Center for role preparation and for skill development, and then encourage the use of our mobile app. So before we move to the demo, and I see a couple questions coming in, so that's good. What I'm going to ask which way your clubs should prioritize using Learning Center modules. So what do you think the best use of these courses are for your members? Is it onboarding new members? Are you using this as a leadership pipeline for training? Are you doing strategic planning retreats and using these courses to help prepare? Or are you doing ongoing member development with this content? And so this will help me share the next screen. That I'm going to move over to the site here. All right. Okay, and it looks like for the most part, people are using this for ongoing member development and a leadership pipeline. So for leadership roles. But there's a lot of people using it for onboarding new members. So this is great. Thank you. Okay. So let's go over here to the demo. And you can see my view might look a little bit different than yours, but that's because we're able to build this site to be customizable. So we have this page that Marty has access to because she's a trustee. It just has some of her courses organized in a different way so that it's easier for them to access. These courses down here are for all of our members. And then we also have a page that is for our non-members. We have our Peace Fellows that come into the Learning Center and take required orientation courses. We might have some interactors or some interact advisors that are not members that would have access to the non-member side. And there's just a few less courses there, and we try to curate the courses so that it makes sense for them. Let's see. Courses for new members. I saw that was a big one here. So these courses about Rotary, and we have this new member basic learning plan, which is something that I highly recommend. We do have an automated email system as well for new members that there's a certain cadence, and every so often new members get another email from us, and we do prompt them to go to the Learning Center and to take these courses. I did want to point out this professional development catalog, and specifically we have new courses around change management. Rotary has a change model that we've been using, and this learning plan builds on that. So each of the 5 steps of that change process is going to be outlined in these courses. So that's something new to take a look at. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight these service courses here. And if you have not seen the new learning plan called Service Project Essentials, it's 4 courses. This is really great for clubs that want to make sure that they're doing impactful service, that they're following all the best practices, and it's a pretty quick course. So I highly recommend that. All right, I do see that somebody has mentioned that the search is not great. I'm gonna demo this. I haven't really shared this with members. This I have turned on for myself is an AI generated. It's an AI generated search engine. And I would love to hear from all of you what you think of this. But down here, I can search for things I'm enrolled in, specific lessons, courses and learning plans, assets, and then anything in the question and answer in the discussion section. So if I were to search for a course, it would populate up top here, and then I would say club president. and hit enter, right? And it's going to take me to this other page and provide me with the Get Ready Club president. It does provide me with some things in different languages. So this is one of the reasons why I have not launched it yet. And it's not giving me the learning plans up top. So this is something that I am monitoring and trying to determine when's a good time to launch this. But so know that that is coming, and that is something that I hope to launch. One of the things that I did test out with this is you can ask it questions. So it's kind of like a chat GPT, but for Rotary. Let's see. So this is how it would appear to be searching, and then it would give me information, and it's telling me where it's pulling from. Now, one of the things I did have to do is upload the current code of policies and the standard Rotaract Club Constitution here, but that's where it's pulling from. So this search is getting better as we continue to build it out. So yeah, I'd love any thoughts or feedback you have if you think that this could be something that's a little bit better than what we currently have. So that is a work in progress, but hopefully I'll be able to launch that later on this year. Let's see. I just want to make sure everybody's familiar with the menu here. So I just went right next to the Rotary logo and I clicked on these 3 bars at the top. The home page is the course catalogs. That's where you're going to find all the courses you have access to. My dashboard, that's where you're going to find the courses that you've enrolled in, or possibly I've enrolled you in. Now, I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but in the last year, we have been doing some updating of our data, right? In the past, when you come to the Learning Center, it knows who you are based on what information we have in our database. When that information changes, it only gets updated when you return to the Learning Center. And so we are in the midst of some big tech updates here, and we have been updating the data more regularly so that even if you don't come back to the Learning Center, your role is going to get updated. And because of that, I'm able to enroll members by their role into the courses that are for them. And so you might see that you are enrolled in many more things than you were in the past. So that is just something that we're doing. Learning topics are our social learning feature. This is where members can share. Like if you have a presentation that you want to share more widely with the Rotary world, you can go ahead and put it on these topics. This page is customized to who you are. Some topics are only available to people because of the language they speak, or maybe which zone they live in, or the district that they live in. Others are available by role. And so you can explore in the learning topics to see what you have access to, and then you can share resources that you would like others to use. Anything you upload there is just going to save to your favorites. And then you have a question and answer, right? And then your My Activities. This is where you can see your progress on things. So I just wanted to take a minute to look at what Learning Topics looks like. And so you can see here, everybody has this new invitations and enrollments. It's kind of like a social feed. You know, you have what happened recently here. And then this topic is only available to our friends in Sweden. So I can fix this to who's going to see what. And then let's take a look at our polio resources, right? This one, we have a new presentation that just got uploaded the other day, fundraising for Polio Plus. So if you're looking for a PowerPoint about polio, this is where you would come, and you can just click on this. right? You can scroll using these arrows to see what the presentation says. Down here, you can give it a rating on a 5-star scale. And below here, you can ask a question or provide feedback, and you can talk to other members. So this is a really great social tool where members can communicate and share what they're working on. Now, down here on the top right, you see all these buttons. There is one with a down arrow, and this is download. So if I wanted to download this to my computer, see, it's going to pop up right here and tell me when it's ready. And I can save this to my computer. I can save it to a flash drive and do what I need to here. So I can open it this way. All right. So that is learning topics. Again, you're not going to have access to share materials on every single topic because some of the topics are limited to who can share, but there are topics that are available to all members that you can share anything that you've created. So just take a look out for that and see what you find. And, you know, again, if you have any good websites or you've made an amazing video that you want to share with the Rotary world, here you can do that. All right. Who sets up the courses on the mobile window called My Dashboard? So again, mostly as you enroll in courses, they're going to add up here. They're going to just populate here. So if you wanted to just see the courses you're enrolled in, this dashboard page is where you would come. And then I have the ability to auto-enroll you based on your role. And then, right, sometimes we just enroll people for different reasons. You might find yourself with a multi-district PELS learning plan and you're not a president-elect. That is just because in order to make it seamless, I need to enroll everybody from the district until we can get our data updated on a more regular basis, which is coming. This is just one of the things that we have to do to make it easier. Andrea has a question about the new member emails. I do not have that information, but I can connect you with the group that does. So I will note that. Let's see. Will AI search be available by mid-March? I'm not sure. I do have to meet with my vendor to check out and make sure that some things are working correctly. But if things are going well, then I will launch it. I'll try to keep everybody posted and look out for announcements in the Learning in Action newsletter, which goes out mid-month every month. Okay. All right, so let's also take a look at the My Activities page. Again, this is all the way at the bottom of your menu. And this is going to show you some tabs, right? So you land on this page and it shows you your overall progress, how many courses you've enrolled in, how many you've completed. And the more interesting is these tabs here. So this is courses. So if you were looking for confirmation that you completed a course, here's where all your completions are going to be listed. Now you can see I completed this Rotary Club Central Resources and have this ribbon here. This is where if I click this ribbon, it's going to download my certificate. And once I download it, I can decide to save it to my computer, or I can just come back whenever I want to see it here. There may be a course or two that gets updated that is listed in progress, but you do have a ribbon, and that just means in the past you completed the course at 100%. And since you completed the course, my team probably went in there and updated some of the materials. You don't have to feel obligated to complete them. If we want you to recomplete something, like youth protection, which is now an annual course, we will ask you to do that by making it a course that has a year associated with it. And every year we will turn the old course off and turn the new course back on. So the courses are start over. All right. So I think Service Project Essentials should be more general for any project. But I can take another look at that. There are some best practices that we are using in all of our projects, including global grants, that do carry over to Service Project Essentials. So we just tried to make it that course a little simpler. All right. Any other questions or comments? Before I go, I'd have one more question for you. How valuable do you find the Learning Center for member development? I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. We are always looking to improve. So again, feel free to reach out at learn.rotary.org and provide any feedback that you have on the Learning Center. We are always looking at your course evaluation results and adjusting based on the feedback that we receive from all of you. So I really appreciate any information that you share that would help us continuously improve. All right. And it looks like we have about 53 people that say 53% of people say it's extremely valuable and 38% say somewhat valuable. So I really appreciate you all hanging out with me today and asking so many thoughtful questions. Again, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Kim. What a wonderful presentation, and we definitely will have you back. It is exciting to know all of the things that are occurring with Rotary International and the ways in which we can extend our learning and development. So thank you, and please stay on. We want you to be involved and hear all of the excitement of our next panelists. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is someone that you all know. She is a woman that I consider a friend. She is distinguished in all her elements of Rotary. She has a love and passion for the work that we do around the world. Trustee Marty Hellman, thank you for joining us today. And I can say that I've had an opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with you over the last week because we both were at Rotary International Assembly. And I want to hear from you because for me, I found myself just empowered by all of the wonderful activities, opportunity to be a facilitator, seeing the excitement of all the incoming district governor-elects, and most of all, hearing from our president-elect, but seeing too all of what was occurring on the stage from host to panelists, to discussions, but more so fellowship. So I want to turn our attention to you, Marty. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Demetris. I appreciate that. And I have to say to our audience that Demetris and I are an example of the kind of friends that you make in the Rotary world and that you run into again and again, and you grow together and you learn together and you come to appreciate one another and recognize each other's strengths, and really it becomes a long distance but very close relationship. And I'm not sure when you and I met, Demetris, but it was only a few years ago, but I feel like we've been friends for a long, long time. So thank you so much. Yes, I'm now back in my home state of Maine, hence the sweater. Orlando wasn't that warm, but it's warmer than it is here now in Maine. And I think to the audience, if you've been on the Rotary blogosphere, you know that Yinka has asked us next year to create lasting impact. That will be the theme for next year, create lasting impact. I must say, you appreciate something only after you lose it, and after former President nominee Sang Koo-yoon's death and so on, it was really great to see our president-elect, and president nominee all in the room together. President Francesco, president-elect Yinka Babalola, and president nominee Larry Lunsford from 3 different continents, all enjoying each other, all in very good health, and all clearly working to support one another, showing us that it's not my year, it's not your year, it's our future in Rotary together. So I really enjoyed that. I also wanted to say that the board of trustees met before the IA, the board of directors met afterwards, and one of the decisions made was we tentatively selected the site for the international conventions in 2029 and 2031. In 2029 will be Barcelona. In 31 it will be Dublin. And I'm getting good at citing the next 6 out into the future. So this year, 26 will be, of course, in Taipei, 27 in Dubai, 28 in Minneapolis, 29 in Barcelona, 30 in Chicago for the 125th anniversary of Rotary, 31 in Dublin, and 32 in Honolulu. We've scheduled it twice before in Honolulu. First came a pandemic, and then came a renovation of the arena. So hopefully the third time is the charm. Now, when Dimitris asked me to speak tonight, she wanted me to tell something of her story. I'm not sure that my story is all that interesting, but nobody says no to Dimitris. And there is a part of my Rotary story which has to do with membership. So I thought I would share that, because my husband and I joined Rotary back in 2003 when we were new to our town in Boothbay Harbor, Maine. And we did it, frankly, because we wanted to meet people. We didn't know anything about Rotary. I had a vague idea it was a service organization, but an even vaguer idea of what that meant. And quite frankly, my club at that time did not have a good onboarding process. By the way, we did not have a sponsor. We showed up one day and said, "Hi, we want to join," and they took our money and they gave us a seat. But we really did not know what was going on. And my club then and now is a very traditional club. We met over dinner, and we were a singing club at the time. And between the off-key singing and the bad jokes and the acronyms, I just couldn't take it. And I put up with it for about 5 or 6 months. And then I decided that's it. I'm out of here. There are other ways to meet people in town. But my club also assigns housekeeping duties. And that month I had signed up to be a waiter. And after all, I have to run into these people at the grocery store and at church and at the car repair. So rather than just disappear, I decided that what I would do is I would wait out the rest of the month and do the things that I had promised to do. And then at the end of the month, I would disappear. Well, the next week, of course, that was the meeting. It was the meeting. One of our members had gone to East Africa to build homes for AIDS orphans. And it wasn't so much the need. I spent the decade of the 80s in New York City, and there's not too much you can tell me about HIV, AIDS, and broken dreams. It wasn't the need. It was the fact that an ordinary guy, somebody I had sat next to in Rotary meetings, had actually done something more than write a check. He had actually gotten his inoculations and gotten on an airplane and gone to Uganda and actually done some physical work for these children who had so little and needed so much. And I remember sitting in the back of the room with tears running down my eyes as he told his story. And I vowed to myself then that maybe if I put up with this Rotary stuff, and maybe if I put up with the acronyms, that maybe someday I too could actually go on an international project. And so I stuck with Rotary. And just about a year later, my husband and I found ourselves on a flight to Guatemala to work in a literacy program down there. And my plan for the week was pretty simple. We would volunteer during the school week, and on Saturday we would go do a little sightseeing at Tikal, which is a Mayan site, and then on Sunday we'd come home and take up our lives where we left them off. And that was the plan. And that's pretty much what happened until Friday. And on Friday, the last day of the school week, we had been signed up to take the littlest children in the program, the 3 and 4-year-olds, to the zoo. Guatemala City actually has a pretty nice zoo. And I had practiced Spanish names of African animals so that I could say elefante and jirafe and cocodrillo to the children. Well, when we got there, we were all assigned 2 children to hold on to them with our hands. I was assigned to be with Elena and Roy. And the children were dressed in their Sunday best. It was their first time away from the dump where they live, the shantytown dump. It was their first time that they'd ever been on a school bus, first time they'd ever been anywhere. And they were so excited. They were so excited and so overexcited that frankly, the animals were just too much for them to even contemplate. They were excited by green grass, shady tree, park bench. The rest was beyond their ken. And I realized as I was holding tightly onto Elena and Roy, sure, I'd driven past shanty towns before in developing countries, but I'd never stopped the car. I'd never learned the names of the children. I'd never wondered if the children had hopes or dreams of their own. And here I was with these 2 little infants, really, trying to give them a nice day at the zoo, a sticky day after we introduced them to soft serve ice cream. And at the end of the morning, when we were putting them back on the bus, I was crying again, crying because I have so much and they have so little. And it's just the accident of my birth that puts me where I am and them where they are. And I'm no better looking or smarter than their mothers. I just chose the right parents. And it all seems so unfair. And then as they were driving away, I remembered that meeting, that person had come, that PDG who had come to talk to us about the Rotary Foundation and what we could do through global grants. And so I vowed that I would go home and I would do something for these children, something more lasting than a morning at the zoo and an ice cream cone. And so I went back and I invited myself onto the club's foundation committee and I wrote my first grant. And then I wrote another one for this program in Guatemala. And then in 2005, Katrina hit New Orleans, and I discovered that you can write they weren't called global grants then, they're called matching grants. I could write a grant for New Orleans, which we did. And one thing led to another. And by that time, I'd been invited onto my district's foundation committee. And the rest you can probably figure. But I'm telling you this story because I would have left Rotary if it hadn't been for that story about the AIDS orphans and what one Rotarian could do to help. And I wouldn't have stayed in Rotary and I wouldn't have gotten involved in the foundation if it hadn't been for Elena and Roy, those children in Guatemala who needed so much and who I discovered that through the Rotary Foundation, I could actually do something sustainable to help them and their entire families and their entire communities. So that's my story. And I wanted to also talk to you about my the first time that I got involved with the Learning Center. It was a few years later, it was when I was District Rotary Foundation Chair, and we were trying to develop our district's grants management training. Now, the DRFC, the District Rotary Foundation Chair, who'd had the job before me, he had come up with training, and it was a Saturday morning, or it was a Saturday. Anyway, it was a morning's worth of training, and it was all very well organized and so on. And he counted it a success. He counted it a success because it was well attended and people went out of the room smiling. Unfortunately, when we got the statistics back from Evanston, it turned out that something like 40% of our grant applications were being denied, not postponed for more work, not sent back for more work, but in actual fact, totally denied. And yet our training was so good. So my predecessor's feeling was, well, it's their fault. You know, the folks aren't listening. It's great training. They all went out smiling. Let's continue to do the training. Now, I had different ideas. I have some education as a teacher, and I know that if everybody flunks the course, then you should be looking at the testing materials and you should be figuring out what's going on that's wrong. And so as we were talking about how we were going to redo it, we wondered and if we could actually put the training not in a Saturday morning room in somewhere here in Maine, but if we could put it on the Learning Center. And so we talked to Kim and we got permission to do that. And I believe I'm correct in that our district was the first district in the Rotary world to put its grants management training on the Learning Center. It was terrific because people could take it at their own time. If they had questions, they could reach out to the district to get the answer to their questions. If they wanted to go over something, they could go over something, and we were always available. It was convenient, and of course, we knew exactly what the training consisted of. It didn't have anything to do with the person standing in the front of the room forgetting their notes. It was all right there. And I'm here to tell you that our success ratio of grants went from something in the 60% to something in the high 90%. So it really, really worked. And it was very exciting for me. I'm sorry to tell you that my successor as DRFC, as District Foundation Chair, stopped using the Learning Center that way because he said it was too much work. Well, okay, all right. I leave that to you to decide. All I know is that we were so pleased with the results that we were getting through the Learning Center. And we were so pleased that that we could create our own package. And Kim invited you. She said if you have a video or something that you want to put up there. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of that offer. The other thing I wanted to say is that as much as I enjoy Kim and her poll, there was a use of the Learning Center which she didn't include, and which I think is one of the most rewarding. And that is particularly if you're representing a small club. I've seen a lot of small clubs that don't really like to ask somebody to invite community leaders in to be speakers because there aren't enough of us and it's not worth their time. And they have these feelings of somehow that they shouldn't invite leaders to speak to them. Well, you can always use a Learning Center module, a 20-minute Learning Center module as a club program. It could be about something with Rotary. It could be about the Polio Plus program or the Rotary Peace Center program. It could also be something just about life, something which has a Rotary take on something which is good for us all to know. I'm thinking of things like youth protection or DEI. How wonderful to project in a club meeting Rotary's DEI discussion, the 20-minute module, and go through it together. Not to take it and complete it, because since you didn't log on, you can't do that. But to use it as a starting point for discussion about DEI and what it means in your community and in your club. So I throw that out as yet another reason to use the Learning Center. And particularly because I noted that in the poll, in one of the other polls, lack of awareness was raised as the biggest concern of why the Learning Center is not used. So what better way to raise that awareness than to actually use it in a center? So those are the things that I wanted to discuss with you. And I'm not sure what the time is, Demetrius, but I'm happy to answer questions if there's time for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. What a powerful presentation to hear from a trustee, Marty, and acknowledge all of the wonderful work that still goes on behind the scenes at these international assemblies. I know that individuals were asking about making sure that they had it correct of all the places that we will be able to visit for the international convention. Much of that, of course, I know is out there on Google. But if you would just recite that one more time so that they would have an opportunity to write that down. And I just
I'll be happy to, Demetrius.
Yes, absolutely.
26 is Taiwan, 27 is Dubai, 28 is Minneapolis, 29 is the new one just named at Barcelona, 30 is Chicago, 31 is also newly named. It's Dublin. Thank you. It's Dublin, and 32 is Honolulu. Now I must say these are all not final until the contracts are signed. So we have every reason to expect them to take place, but if there's a problem with the contract, then things can always change.
And Kim, thank you for listing those. So you now have heard it another time, and you also have it listed. Kim has graciously placed that in there. I thought it was interesting too that you shared, some of your experience with the Learning Center. So it sounds like we're never too high in a position, or we're never too in a position of long-term, our tenure as a Rotarian. It is something out there for everyone.
We can all learn. And in fact, Kim mentioned the courses that are required for club president, for various district roles. And the same is true for trustees and directors. And of course, things like youth protection are required of all of us that hold any role in Rotary.
That's so important. We just
Excuse me. Also DEI. I believe I'm correct that
Oh,
that's
yes.
required of everyone every year. Yeah.
Yes. We think about youth protection because a lot of us participate in RILA, and our RILA was occurring while I was there in Orlando. But that is so important for us to know when we are working with youth and young people that we need to be officially trained as Rotarians. What would you say that you would like to share when we think about Rotarians, but we also think about Rotaractors? And there was a lot of conversation about Rotaractors, and you also shared a little bit of one of those goals that President Yinka elect talked about in 2030 for us to reach that 1.25 million Rotarians. Share a little bit on that.
Thank you for bringing that up. Just as we had a goal for fundraising, which we met and exceeded last year, we now have a multi-year goal for net membership growth, and it's to reach 1.25 million by 2030, which will be our 125th year, and also 125,000 Rotaractors. Kim, correct me if I got that number wrong. What it comes down to is a net increase of 25,000 Rotarians per year. And you're probably aware, one of our problems in Rotary, and this, by the way, is a global problem. It's not just a North America one. One of our problems in membership is that we lose 1/2 of the people that sign our books. We lose them in the first 2 years. And as I mentioned, I was almost one of those people, right? If we keep them for 3 years, we tend to keep them a good long time. But whether we are promising more than we are delivering, whether the club experience is not right, whether we talk about all the things we're going to do but don't get around to doing them, probably somewhere something that's a combination of all of the above and a few others, we have this revolving door, unfortunately. And there are 2 ways that we can grow Rotary in terms of net membership. One is to shut that back door. So when people come in the front door, we don't lose them. We don't lose 50% of them out the back door. We need to do that. And also, we need to start new clubs, particularly new flexible clubs. We've talked a lot about flexibility in the past decade or so. And yet, since the pandemic, only 1 out of 10 new clubs has been a flexible club, meaning a club that's anything other than traditional town-based general interest. So if you're in a club that's an E-club, if you're in a club that is a special interest, child maternal health, or a club for a particular group of people, veterans, as I say, only 1 out of 10 new clubs in the past 5 years has been in that category. And while we continue to love our traditional clubs, and as I said, my club is more traditional than your club. My club is very traditional. And that's great, but it's working for me and it's working for my club members. But we need to remember that it isn't working for other people who find the time when the club meets not useful to them, or who are interested in a specific area, human slavery, and they want to work in that area only, and we need to adapt to be able to service them. Same Rotary, same four-way test, same goals, but different way to get there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I don't think we can leave without acknowledging one final point. The stage presence was amazing. We saw an 11-year-old who had created her own company. She is truly a Rotarian in the making. We know we will see her doing amazing things. But what did you think about Ravi, District Governor-elect, who had decided to make such an overwhelming contribution? I get chills just thinking about his generosity and his love for Rotary, but saying, me and my family, my wife, we have enough. Just tell us just a moment of what you felt in
This
the
is a
room.
gentleman. This is a gentleman from India who had known poverty in his youth. He started
Yes.
a company. He's done extraordinarily well. He'd been generous to Rotary before this gift. This gift is a $50 million US $50 million gift. He, as Demetra says, he and his wife have jointly agreed that during their lifetime they'll give away 85% of their wealth, and I'm sure he's got plans for the rest of it on his death. And he, as he was finishing his speech, he standing on the stage in front of 1,000 people, he knelt down and he touched his forehead to the ground in a sign of humility and obeisance to God. And I was awestruck, just awestruck.
Yes. I will say that it is still tear jerking, and everyone in the room, just to see that humility. And past President Jennifer said, Demetrius, I know you saw it. It was an humble, overwhelming point of recognizing his humility indeed. And Audie, we want to bring you up because we know we are near our time. I cannot thank Kim and Trustee Marty enough for being a part. And please know this stage is always open to both of you, and we look forward to seeing you again. But this was a tremendous benefit to all of our listeners. And we always like to say it will be recorded, and I know Audie will share how you can listen in. So thank you again, and cheers to you in Maine.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Trustee Marty. I remember you coming to my club in Oak Park, Illinois, and sharing that story of Elena and Roy. I mean, just wonderful how you stayed in Rotary on account of that. It's wonderful, the impact we have. Thank you very much. Well, as we bring this session to a close, I want to take a moment to return to today's session. We asked you about the value of the Rotary Learning Center, what we saw, regardless of where you personally landed, is that the Learning Center is very much on the minds of club and district and Rotary International leaders. So for some, it is already a valuable and familiar tool. For others, it represents untapped potential. And that difference in experience is exactly why today's conversation matters. The Rotary Learning Center is not meant to sit on the sidelines. It is meant to be used intentionally, shared openly, and integrated into how we welcome members, how we prepare leaders, and strengthen club culture. The takeaway is simple. Learning by itself does not drive impact. Intentional learning does, and we have the tool, the resource for it. When clubs align learning with purpose, track progress, and talk about what they're learning, development becomes momentum. And you can share this session, it's on YouTube, or you can go to the Zone website, and click on whichever one of these sessions you want. They'll all be there, and we want you to share them with your other club members, with your district, with anyone that's associated with Rotary that you know, or even people you want to join Rotary. Thank you to our mediator, Demetrius Harrell, and to our panelists, Kimberly Kwame and Trustee Marty Hellman, for your leadership, insight, and practical guidance. And thank you to all of you for engaging, reflecting, and leaning into this conversation. We invite you to continue this journey with us at our February membership Master Vault session on February 17. Our focus will be effective communication and storytelling for member impact. We look forward to seeing you on February 17. Thank you for your leadership, your commitment to Rotary, and for being part of the Membership Master Vault series. Have a wonderful evening.